Sir, very good afternoon. Dr. Sir, good afternoon.
Very
Very
good afternoon.
warm welcome to everyone. Welcome back, sir. Welcome back to the second session of today's student development program on different phases of prototype development. And the speaker, Dr. Umesh Datta, has very well explained the first phase. That was problem recognition phase. It was very well stated and cited by a perfectly today's prevalent example in the bad era of pandemic, actually, and it was very well appreciated by the audience also. The questions were looked at. Now, the second phase will be the idea validation phase for today's session. Dr. Sir, may I request you to please start the session without any much formality?
Sure, I will.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, a very warm welcome to you all, and we'll kickstart session 2. And the topic for this session is idea validation. So, in the first session that we had in the morning, we discussed about the problem formulation, how we can formulate a problem and wisely formulate it, not just formulate the problem. It's all about wisely formulating it so that it has a huge impact. And we saw the data importance. We saw how crucial the WHO statistics were when we were formulating the idea. We started off working with the problem of pollution, and we tackled the help of mask. Now the question is, if you have some idea in mind, you want to validate it, whether it is going to work or not, whether I'm thinking on the right lines or not, whether this is the right approach or not. I think all those questions will be striking your mind once you have a solution, once you have a problem statement in hand. So it's quite important for all of us to understand how we can tackle this particular phase of innovation, which means if you have something concrete in mind that you want to execute, you have an innovation idea, and you feel that it can work, the stats are backing it, and initial advisory panel that you have, who is in the proximity of the team, is also giving you a go ahead that yes, it's a good idea, it can work, right? But an idea is good and bad on the basis of the sheets, right? So it's like if your balance sheet is reflecting success, it's a success story. Otherwise, if it's not reflecting a success story, then probably there's something wrong, right? So it's quite important for us to make sure that when we design any idea, when we design any problem, that okay, fine, we are going to tackle this particular problem and we want to evolve a solution which is going to handle this particular problem, then in that case you have to validate it, right? So validation is quite important. And who is going to validate your idea? You yourself. Yes, initially you ask yourself, can it work? uh, that's the first thing that is always there, right? So you ask yourself that can it work, right? And if the answer is yes, you proceed ahead. You ask others who are around you, can it work? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? What should I do to change and make it much better? uh, Making sure that the problem that you have in hand, you are covering it properly, and actually whatever solution you're providing, that is taking care of every aspect which is associated with that particular problem, right? It's quite difficult. At the same time, the morning session, I remember one student asking me a question about the lens, that okay, if somebody is wearing a lens, how effective it will be for that guy. So yes, every innovation, every idea will have certain uh, shortcomings, or maybe something which you can work upon. But at the same time, I think the most important thing is that from the broader perspective, it should cover most of the problems that are there, right? So that is the most important thing, guys. So idea validation itself is a quite important phase of any innovation. And as a researcher, you have a structured way of doing it. As an innovator, you have an alternative approach, which means you do surveys, you do personal interview with the people, you do personal interview with the guys who are from that particular background, who are from that particular company, or maybe who are in that particular domain, working for so many years. Then it's like, as a innovator, it gives you much more flexibility and bandwidth, because you get a lot of ideas, you see and observe their viewpoints on your product. then you can reiterate and you can just make sure that you incorporate those suggestions into the scheme of things that you're designing, so that once you start working on that, once you start working on the prototype, once you start working on the software, once you start working on the hardware, or maybe if it is a service, once you start working on the plan of action, then in that case you can incorporate all those points which have been suggested by anybody whomsoever you have taken into consideration and who has given you the suggestion regarding the same, right? So if I'm developing some gadget, let us say of healthcare category, so my audience will be somebody who is from the same field, right? So I'm not going to sell it to somebody who is into some other domain. My audience will be the healthcare sector, right? So in that case, I have to ask the people who are the consumers, who are actually the ultimate technology taker, that what exactly this idea is all about. How do you feel about it? Is there any solution existing of similar sort? And if yes, how your solution and your idea is different from that? So all those aspects will be coming into picture. And as an innovator, you have to make sure that you do personal interviews, you do surveys, so that you can gather a lot of data, and on the basis of the data you can make decisions, right? So we say data is the next fuel and data is the next diamond, right? So we always keep on saying and hearing a lot of terminologies like this, that data is the diamond and somebody who will be having the data will be the king, right? So that is the most important thing, that if your business is driven by the data, if your decisions are driven by the data that you're capturing from your ultimate consumer, it is something which is going to give a lot of boost to your business, right? If Amazon sells you something and you take the product from Amazon, next day what they send you a mail where they ask you to give the feedback, they ask you to give the ratings, they ask you to write the comments, so that the other people who are willing to buy the similar sort of a product or the same product can have a right idea, they can have an honest idea about the experience of yours. So with each other experience, what will happen? The product will gain the branding, and at the same time it will gain the confidence of the consumer community. And once it gets the consumer community confidence, then in that case the brand will also get the promotion, and the sales can really take a lot of positivity, right? So which means that if you have more reviews on a product, more positive reviews on a product, there are good chances that the people will be inclined towards those products, right? And if you have a product which does not have a good review and people have said that fine, we didn't have a good experience, the quality was not good, and maybe it was not up to the mark, then in that case you change your decision, you never purchase that product, right? So reviews and surveys, they are very important for any business when they start doing a small scale business, they grow. I think data driven approach and data driven business strategies, they are always handy for any business, because they pay you a lot, because you're just not making the decision on the basis of the instincts. Rather, what you try to do, you try to take the decision on the basis of what your consumer actually thinks. So consumer satisfaction and consumers importance in the entire product life cycle is something which is quite important, because ultimately your product is going to be consumed by that particular consumer, and if the consumer is happy and is giving you the right reviews, there are good chances that you will sell a lot of product in the market, and you can make as a company a lot of profit out of that venture, right? So that's something which is very, very important, guys. And it is all dependent on what kind of product you have in mind, and then your audience can be different, right? So if I'm into healthcare business, my audience will be different. If I'm into a business which is going to produce something of plastic, my audience will be different, right? If you're doing something which is dealing with kids product, your audience will be completely different, right? So when you have kids, right, and they're learning, and you are making toys which are like learning toys, early age toys, and they help the kid learn, then in that case you have to make sure that you have your community ready, those who give you the right sort of feedback about that, right? So you'll go to the personal friend of yours who has a small baby at home, maybe ask them to try that idea or maybe that solution if you have it in hand as of now. If you don't have it, maybe you will roughly discuss with them that, okay, fine, this is what I'm thinking about, what do you feel about it? They will say a lot of things, they will give you suggestions, right? In this part, I think that is the most important thing, that if you have any idea and you take it to somebody and say that, okay, we want suggestions from you, I don't see that they will say no to you. They will be more than happy to suggest, they will be more than happy to give their own inputs, And you as a designer, you as a innovator, you as a principal architect of that particular product has to take a decision whether that particular point is valid or not. And you take that point into consideration, not just on the basis of the recommendation of one person or two person. So you have to do the survey. You have to do the survey in a big audience, gather that particular data, and on the basis of that data, you should make a decision. So it is always data driven, and the sample size is something which is quite important in this case. And various companies, those who are launching big products, before they launch or before even they start building their product, I think initial survey that they do from the customers, they really help them in terms of streamlining their strategies for that particular product. And the chances of product making big in the market, they improve in case you do some sort of a pilot initially. And if your pilot is running well, and you have the suggestion taken from various corners of the society, various stakeholders, those who will be ultimately consuming your product, I think then in that case, it becomes a win-win situation for each and every individual, because you as a company will like to offer the product at a low cost, at a good quality, and at the same time giving some spark, giving something different to the customer. And your customer, they want something which is different in the market. If you go and buy a phone, the first thing you will say that, okay, I want something which is looking good in my hand. It should be sleeky, trendy. It should be good design. Maybe the color should be this one. So you go on looks and feel initially, and then you go to specifications. That fine, on the spec side, is it performing well? Is it meeting my requirements in terms of the internal memory or not? Then you go and make certain criteria. So when you buy anything, I think customer today, they are very smart, and they take the decision smartly on the basis of certain criteria. Cost is always going to be the first thing in Indian ecosystem. We always take care of that factor, right? So when you go and purchase, you just go and say that, okay, I want whatever I need to pay, I will pay. No, you always have your budget set. You always have your costing in mind. The second is the feature set. So as a buyer, I think, what do you want? You want every feature in that product. Whatever you are going to buy, that product should satisfy all your requirements. It may not be the case always, right? So you need to make sure that you catch up a product which satisfies your requirement, right? So that is the most important thing, guys. So I think when you talk about idea validation, customer's viewpoint initially is going to be the most important thing. Your customer has to give you a go ahead. Your customer has to give you the suggestions in case your product is not good, or maybe some retweaking is needed in terms of the design or the idea that you are framing. So guys, this is the most important thing, how you can obtain the feedback from your ultimate consumer, which is the customer, right? So we do surveys, we do personal interviews and all those kind of things. So before I kickstart, I think the next phase of one more project that I'm going to discuss with you, because there I will be showcasing you who will be the potential customer, and we all have to together take a decision that for that project, who will be the ultimate customer, right? Because our objective of the session is to understand the idea validation, right? So if we are validating the idea, I told you that the first and the foremost important thing is that you should know who is your ultimate customer, because validation should be done by various people, right? You as a tech designer, you as a principal architect, you will be taking decision on your own points. But at the same time, the most important thing is your customer's feedback, right? So you should know who is your customer, who is going to take the who is going to be the ultimate consumer, and who is going to give you the feedback about your technology, about your product, right? So that is somewhere you have to make sure that you consider their viewpoint, you consider their suggestions and their aspirations also, because your product has to meet their aspirations. If you want to move ahead and you want to sell it in the market, your target customers are the most important thing, right? So we'll take one example project, right? That again is a part of the laboratory where I work and where the students have groomed it over the years, and now it is in a very good shape. And I'll share with you the journey also, how it started and where we are placed as of now with that particular project. But you as an audience right now, you have to tell me who is going to be the ultimate consumer, who is going to be the ultimate taker of that technology. And if you want to conduct the survey, if you want to conduct the pilot, or maybe you can say the personal interview before you do the pilot, then in that case, who that industry will be, whom you will approach for that particular project, whom you will approach for that particular problem statement and idea to validate whether you are thinking right or not, whether you need to incorporate few more things into that or not. I think all those things are important, and with the help of a project, we'll try to understand that. So now, without wasting much time, what I will do, I'll share my screen. I'll do two things. One, we'll go through a structured presentation, right, which is going to be revolving around the idea validation phase. And then once we are done with that, I'll take you towards a project journey of another project, which is from the lab. And there I would like to give you a scenario that, okay, how we validated that particular idea, and we'll discuss and decide who will be the ultimate consumer and who will be the first organization where we should take that project and take the feedback from, right? So this is what I will try to do in the next 10-15 minutes. So I will quickly run through the presentations and we'll get back to the one-on-one discussion so that we can actually understand it in a better way, because I feel once we have the conversation in bidirectional way, we learn a lot, right? So if you have questions, I will be more than happy to take them up, right? So I'll be sharing my screen, guys, now. Allow me to do that. Right. Can you see my screen? Can you give me a formal confirmation? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thanks a lot for confirming. So in the morning, we were discussing about innovation, right? So simply, I can say that, okay, it is a 3-phase process. Somebody can say that, okay, it is a 5-phase, 7-phase, right? So it may differ, right? So simplified way is to put it in a 3-phase manner. So you can say that, okay, you do conception in phase 1. And then once your conceptualization is done, you implement it. And once your implementation is done, you market it, right? So conception, implementation, and marketing are the 3 phases of a simple of an innovation. You can simplify it in this way, right? We can do it in step-by-step way, where we do problem formulation. Yes, idea, again, validation stage. Yes, all of them are there. But broadly speaking, if you talk about the phases, 3 simple phases of any innovation: conception, where you conceptualize the idea, right? Once you're done with that, you implement, you design the pilot, you make the prototype, right? Once you're done with the proto, again, ultimate thing is to go to market, and go to market strategies should be in place before we market our product. So marketing becomes the ultimate phase of the innovation, right? So 3 phases of innovation, if I put it, I can say conception, implementation, and marketing, right? So as of now, we are not into implementation yet. We are somehow in phase 1, where the idea conceptualization is in consideration. So we are still in that first phase where conceptualization is going on. And yes, problem formulation was something which we discussed. And yeah, the second thing and the second step in this case, you can say, is idea validation. You have to validate your idea. You have to say yes or no on the basis of certain parameters, whether you want to proceed ahead or not, whether you want to go back to the drawing board and again reiterate on the idea, do few more tweaking in that, and maybe incorporate few more features in that, so that it becomes a handy solution for the ultimate consumer, right? So all these things are important. And what we are going to focus on is the conception phase. And in that conception phase, there is something called as the idea validation, right? So when we say idea validation, does your idea have business potential? I think once you design something, there are 2 possibilities, or there are 2 things which you have in mind. One is you're designing something which is for humanity. When I say humanity, I say a social innovation which is going to really be helpful for the entire community, which is going to be handy. But at the same time, do you do it for free? Just honestly answer this question. Do you do it for free? I mean, anybody in the world does it for free without any charges. Yes, there are people around who do it for free, but most of the business houses, even if it is for the humanity, there is a cost, right? So if you have taken COVID shield or co-vaccine, yes, it is free from the government side, but somewhere down the line, the companies who are producing it, they're getting paid for the vaccines, right? So the thing is, if you do and get it vaccinated personally, you have to pay again, right? So even if it is about humanity, again, one thing is like, yes, somewhere down the line, there is a hidden cost component. Someone is paying to someone. And yes, there is a buyer, there is a seller, and ultimately there is a business going on at the back end, right? So yes, the first and the foremost thing that you ask yourself is, does your idea have business potential? Can it do the business? Can it do something for which you are actually curating it, right? So if it is not for the business, then obviously we are wasting our time, right? There's no point of moving ahead, because ultimately each and every house has to run the show, and you have to make sure that you take bread along with you, right? If there is no bread, again there is no nothing. So you have to make sure that whatever idea you have, it has the business potential, right? So once you do that, once you feel that okay, it has a business potential, then you have to validate, right? So if you feel that okay, I feel that okay, it has the bandwidth, it has the capacity to do a lot of business, somebody has to validate, no? Somebody has to validate that particular thing. So when we say idea validation, it is a process of gathering the evidence around ideas through experimentation to make fast, informed, and de-risk decision. So it's a very important definition, and I always say that okay, definitions, they limit you, but you have to go beyond that. So when we say that okay, we are gathering the evidences, we are gathering the information around the idea, and maybe it is through survey, through experimentation, but ultimately what we are trying to do, we are trying to make some sort of decisions, whether this is going to work or not. Shall I tweak it? Shall I change it? Shall I look for alternative approaches? Shall I look for some other idea? Shall I look for some other amendment in the document that I have prepared, right, for my product and my services that I'm going to give to the community? So ultimately, the whole objective of this exercise is to make sure that your idea is strengthened, or you can say your project that you are trying to do, or the innovation that you are trying to come up with, that has to take a right shape, right? So you have to get it validated, right? So we want to make sure that we get the data, we do experimentation, and we do surveys, and somehow make some fast, some informed, and de-risk decision. De-risk is something which is important, and yes, I don't know whether it is going to come at risk or not, but yes, we say that okay, it is always a de-risk decision that you need to make, right? So risk is everywhere, risk is involved at every stage, but you have to make sure that whatever decision you take, it is de-risked, right? As low as possible as you can keep. So when you talk about the validation phase, I think there are 4 steps for any idea validation. You define the goals. What do you want to learn, right? Should you validate your market, a problem or a product, right? So you define your goals. Ultimate goals have to be defined by you as a developer. Then you develop a hypothesis, right? Hypothesis is some sort of an assumption, right? What are the most critical assumptions which are related to your idea, right? What is the minimum success criteria, right? So you develop some sort of hypothesis, right? Assumption, right? And then you do experiment. Which methods are the most useful for testing your assumption? Is it going to be a survey? Is it going to be the personal interview, right? How do you plan to execute the test, right? In case you want to experiment, what will be your ultimate methodology that you will adopt for experimenting? And then comes the validate step. Is your assumption valid? Because on the basis of the data that you will be collecting through the experimentation phase, it can give you some sort of an idea. May not be an absolute indicator, but yes, a relative indicator, or maybe at times absolute also, where you get a clear-cut idea that okay, it is going to work or not. Suppose I come up with a product, and I come up with an idea, and I design a survey, and I reach out to, let us say, 1 lakh people. Out of 1 lakh, if 90,000, 95,000 people are saying no to it, then it is quite clear. The picture is clear in front of me that I took a sample survey from 1 lakh people, and out of 1 lakh people, 95,000 or 90,000 people, they have voted against this particular product, which means it cannot work. Only there are 4 to 5,000 people who are in favor of the product, and if they are in favor, what is the degree to which they agree to your product or your idea is again an important thing. So there you do certain qualitative analysis rather than quantitative analysis. You ask them few more questions about their habits or products, and then make a decision that fine, is it going to work or not, right? So surveys, experimentation, everything is going to be a handy tool for you. And as a innovator, as a designer, I think this is the most important thing, that you should have a knowledge of statistics, because if you want to make a data-driven decision, you should know that okay, if something is going wrong, then on the statistical part, I mean, how do you validate and how do you evaluate whether you say you have to take it into consideration or not, right? So these are important things. I think the knowledge of statistics, the knowledge of identifying the ultimate customer, identifying the market where you will go and do those surveys. Everything is going to be an important thing, right? So you need a good team to validate your idea, and possibly as a designer, as a product inventor, you would like to keep yourself a bit segregated and a bit away from this particular validation phase, because you will have your sentiments attached with the product, right? When you design something, when you come up with any innovation, I think the first and the most important thing is that sentiments. You have your sentiments attached to it. If someone says that, okay, it is not going to work, it is going to hurt your feelings badly. And maybe next time you see each other, you will not like that person, right? Just because that person has said no to your idea, right? But that is not right. Yes, sentiments will always be there with any innovation that you do. But at the same time, the most important thing is that you should get a right feedback. Even it is on the extreme negative side on your part, it's okay, perfectly fine. But what it does, it gives you a right idea about a particular customer segment, that okay, if they are saying no to your product, why they are saying no. And you as a designer, you as a principal architect, you as a principal owner of that particular company, then in that case, it's your responsibility to read those feedbacks, see whether they were valid or not, see whether you have already taken care of those points or not, or maybe something new can emerge out and which may help you and your product to become even more better, right? So all these are important things. And as an organization, as a startup, I think validation is the most important thing. Why do I say that? Sentiments, that's it. One word to define it: sentiments. You start something as a team, you have sentiments attached to it. You would like it to be a big thing, you want it to be a successful venture, but at the same time, you have to validate it, right? You have to make sure that your market is in favor of your idea, right? Otherwise, you make a nice prototype, you invest a lot in technology, you invest a lot in software, you invest a lot in the marketing strategies, you make your brand up to the mark, but still, if the consumers are not ready to take it, then who's going to take it? It will remain on shelf, right? So it is not going to be a product which is of use in the market, right? So you have to make sure that whatever you validated in the market, right? So this is important, guys. I think the most important thing is getting it validated. And now you know that if you have any idea and you want to validate it, what are the different steps? Hypothesis again is going to play a very, very important role. And there you have to be a bit more lenient, but smartly play around the hypothesis, right? So assumptions that you make about your idea, I think don't make too much because it may lead to some other results. And what is the minimum success criteria? So if you say that, okay, if I get 5,000 people in my favor out of 1 lakh, then in that case, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. For me, I can go ahead and proceed further, right? So you have to make sure that minimum success criteria is set properly, right? User research tool, I think is another important point. You have to make sure that you take both the paths, which means quantitative as well as the qualitative analysis. So whenever you do any kind of market research or any kind of survey, or maybe an online survey, analytics, A/B testing, right? Deep interview, user test, focus groups again is an important thing. Concept testing, ethnographic research, observations, user journey mapping. I think all of them are important, right? So when you go for when you go about the innovation and you want to decide whether you want to go ahead or not, validate the concept, then in that case, I think it's quite dangerous to go on one side. If you go totally on quant, not qualitative, it becomes quite difficult because numbers are at times misleading also. So it may completely throw you out of the picture. But yes, qualitative is where you can get much more insights about the customer. So you have to make sure that when you validate, you keep a right balance between the quantitative approaches and the qualitative approaches, right? And this is a nice diagram which came across when I was fetching the data for my PPT deck. It was you can see over here that you have on one side the research team, and on one side you have you have the ultimate consumer, the user, and user is like, yeah, do this, do that, you have to change this, you have to fix this, And on the research side, on the right hand side, you can see that the cartoon characters are saying that yes, we can fix that, right? So they can change it. Ultimately, yeah, it is the user who is going to come and tell you that, okay, boss, I want this, and this should be incorporated in your final product. It will be good. And as a research team, you have to make sure that you make a wise decision, right, on the basis of data. And data-driven approaches are always handy, right? And once you are done, then ultimate consumer is going to say, yeah, it works for me, right? So validation done, right? And yeah, don't validate design, test them, right? So this is something which was an interesting cartoon pic that I got, right? So this is a quick brief overview about idea validation phase. And here we got to know that, okay, when we go about idea validation, what are the different approaches we can take and how to go about this particular phase of innovation, and why it is so important, right? And what is the importance of data in terms of making decisions about your innovation and your marketing strategy, right? So I always back up this idea that it has to be data driven. And as a university student, as a university professor, I think this habit, if we can develop, where we can do the survey internally, I think that will really help us out in terms of coming up with a good innovation. And a lot of suggestions will also come out. So it is a good practice always in the institutions. If you have a student team doing any project, we always recommend that do a survey, do a quick pilot survey, just design a simple Google form, send it across to your network in the university, so that you can get a good idea about your project and your product and your idea from your same age group, or maybe different age group, or maybe the same community, right? So educational institution, they allow you to have that kind of a bandwidth where you can get the feedback quickly and get the feedback from the right audience, right? So there it is a first important step, where you get it from your colleagues, you get it from your classmates, you get it from your professors. So always try to design the projects in such a way that you have this phase properly done, where you do proper survey, and on the basis of the analytics you take a decision, right? So this is one thing. This is one very important thing which I would like to mention over here. And lot of services are available which provide you statistics. Google always is a front runner in this particular category, where you can just create a simple Google form, and using Google Analytics you can do a lot of important uh, data analytics, right? So which means that you will be able to get a good idea how many people are in favor of your project, and how many of them are completely satisfied, and how many of them feel that, okay, there are certain chances of improvisation and you should try to incorporate new features. What are those new features? You can do category wise breakup of those features and see which category is important. So all those things are quite important, guys. And as as an innovator, you have to make use of the right tools. You may not be a statistician, and it's really not required, but a simple analysis tool like a Google form can tell you a lot of things about your product. And companies, they rely a lot on the survey, right? Survey Monkey is another platform which they use a lot for doing the survey. So as a customer, as a consumer, you are filling these forms, I think at least once a week, whenever they are coming. Maybe they are coming from the government agencies to see whether their policies are doing good or not. Or if, even it is from Amazon or Flipkart, when you purchase any commodity, whether you like that product or not. So feedbacks are quite important. The validation is quite important, right? Here, the process is different. Yes, you are giving a feedback on the product quality because you're a user. But during the design phase, during the ideation phase, again, companies do ask you a lot of information. They ask you that, fine, if this product comes in the market, what do you feel? What should be the look and feel? What should be the color? So there are surveys like that also, where even if a product is not manufactured, companies do make the surveys live, and they allow the customer to give their views on that. And they are taken, and they are very well taken in the organizations, because ultimately it has to be consumed by the customer, and product has to satisfy their needs and requirements. And that's why these surveys, they are quite important, both qualitative as well as quantitative, right? So this is about idea validation phase from my side. What I will do quickly now, I will take you through one more deck that I have for you. I will not go through the complete detail, but with this particular deck that I'm going to show you, we'll try to analyze one more problem. So again, problem formulation is something which we will see why it was formulated. And then probably I will tell you the idea validation phase also. So we will discuss around that problem. We will discuss about that particular project, and we'll see idea validation phase, how we can design. Okay. So allow me to jump to that particular deck. right? So give me a moment. Yeah. Yeah. So this is another one. This is LOTO, and this stands for lockout and tagout procedure. And immuning implies from electrocution, right? So I'll give you certain stats again, since we are going to discuss about a new problem. So we have to make sure that we discuss stats properly. So electrocution means death or serious injury due to the electric shock when a high voltage AC current passes through your body, right? Electrocution was responsible for around 9600 deaths in India during 2014, right? This is according to the data which we have got from National Crime Records Bureau, India. And electrical hazards, they cause more than 300 deaths and 4,000 injuries each year in US. Something which we are not saying, something which is fetched from National Institute of Occupation Safety and Health. And electrocution is sixth among causes of workplace death in America, National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. So it's ranked sixth in terms of the number of deaths which are happening in the workplaces. 10 casualties have been occurred till now due to electrocution in a recent nor'eastern storm in northern US, New Jersey Herald. So I think these data sets which are presented to you, they are sufficient to signify that electrocution is a serious issue, right? And workplace, industries, where heavy machinery is in action, there, I think this particular issue is very, very difficult to manage, right? So the people who are handling heavy machinery, they lose their life because of electrical shocks. And data is saying a lot about that, right? And if at this point of time, with so much technology available, if you are losing so many people because of this, it's something which is not right. So you have to make sure that technology answers that, right? So this is just the statistics that shows the number of deaths which have happened due to electrocution in India in 14. I'm sorry, I'm showing you the data of 14 as of now, because this is something which I was able to pull out. And this is the stats for Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, and Gujarat, right? So you can see that a lot of people, they have lost their life due to the electrocution, right? So this is a very important issue that needs to be addressed. And every year, it's like a different situation. But yes, we are losing a lot of people because of this. So just after a shortcut, a manual procedure called lockout tagout is performed by the industry technicians to isolate the power sources from the equipment and to inform the concerned higher authority about the fault. This manual procedure includes physically switching off all the switches, MCBs that leverage that actually causes a lot of risk, increase the risk of the people being electrocuted. And a great number of electrocution incidents have occurred during the maintenance, right? So just to summarize, guys, what happens during the maintenance period? What happens? You switch off the MCBs, you switch off all the suppliers, and the people who are working in the field, those who are actually working on the equipment, they're not informed. And suddenly, what happens? The electricity supply is restored, and somebody who is working in the field, by any chance, if their hand is there in the machine or if they are working on the machine, they get a shock, right? So that communication is missing between the people, right? So the guys who are maintaining the entire shop, the guy who is maintaining the entire plant, I think that guy is doing the job in isolation. They are doing it on their own. Somebody who is working on the machine, they are expecting that, okay, sometime after 5 minutes, 6 minutes, maybe electricity supply is going to be restored and we have to work again. So they become careless, right? Or maybe by chance they touch on something, or their hand is there in between a heavy motor. Things can happen. I mean, incidents can happen like that also, right? So somehow communication is missing, and industries, they follow some sort of a lockout tagout process that is called as LOTO. It's a standard operating procedure that is being followed, lockout and tagout. And this process is something where you have a person who is maintaining the supply. They go to the site for repair. They maintain the records on a paper, and then they start repairing the things. And then some calls are made, and finally the electricity is restored. So once it is restored, by chance, if somebody is working in the field and accidentally, if your motor starts running at a high RPM, it can lead to accident. So the communication was something which was missing between each and every aspect. So what we came up with this particular device. It's called Lotto. It is lockout and tagout device. It's a smart device which is going to be digitizing the lockout and the tagout procedure that is being followed in the industry. It is having two units. One is for MCB and the other is the MCU unit, which is going to take everything into consideration, every possible case, right? So this informs the technician, right? This actually informs the technician or the authorized user about the faults in the system, right? So whenever there is a fault in any machinery, it informs them. And once they are informed, then in that case, immediately the things are operational remotely. So it can be turned off and then finally somebody can come and repair. And without the permission of the concerned person, the electricity will not be restored, right? So once the permission is there, once proper communication is there between all the channels, then the electricity is restored so that the machine and the plant can start functioning again. So this proper communication between the technician, manager, or the final supervisor is something which is quite important, and even the workers, those who are working in the field. So if that communication channel is properly digitized, each and every individual is knowing about it, the process, then in that case, the accident or the chances of people getting electrocuted is something which you can eliminate, right? So this was a whole idea by which this entire project was conceptualized by Team Techens over here at Manarashna. So they came up with this particular project. So if you ask me, who is going to be the ultimate consumer? I can say that, okay, the ultimate consumer is going to be any industry who is into manufacturing, who is into production, where these processes are managed properly. So if I want to take the feedback about this product, where should I go? I'll go to those industries. I'll go to the industries, those who are manufacturing, where this procedure is followed, right? This lockout and tagout procedure, which is a very renowned procedure. Wherever this process is followed, I'll go to those owners, those companies, ask them, how do you do it? Manually, if you're doing it, what are the challenges? How can we solve it? If this is a product, these are the services which I am providing to you. Are they enough? If not, then what all suggestions you want to give me, right? So there you get a clear-cut idea. So a properly designed survey and it getting filled from the ultimate consumer, which in this case will be the industries, those who are following the lockout and the tagout procedure. I think that will really be a handy thing, and that will give you a great idea. And you can do a lot of improvisation in the project once you get that particular feedback from those companies. Government agencies, those who are again in the similar sort of segments, again can be the part. MSME sector, entire MSME sector where the production is happening, they can be the part of this, right? So yes, if you ask me, if I want to validate my idea, I'll go to those people, ask them how you are doing it right now. And as an individual, as a researcher, as an innovator, if I'm coming up with an idea, this is my idea, can it work? Can we do something about it? So I'll design my questionnaire and I will get it filled from them, and that will be something which will really help me a lot. If they say that fine, this is the need, your idea is validated, it can work, yes, then I will go ahead and will start doing the production. I will start working on the software. I will start working on the hardware. And that's where you start designing with the team and with the clear-cut objectives that you want to achieve from your product, right? So validation around the technology, validation around the idea is something which is important. And the consumer's feedback is the most important thing. Once it is obtained, then you can work on the technology aspect. Yes, if there are 10 technologies which can serve the purpose, which can solve your problem, then you have to pick one out of those 10. And you can pick anything. There you can involve technical experts of technology, maybe software if it is involved. What are the different software technologies that you can use? Which one is going to be the best one? I think there the decision can be taken on the basis of the technology, on the basis of the best available technology. You can take the decision, right? Whatever you feel can work for that, or whatever you get as a suggestion, whatever you try. If you try 3-4 things, if you feel that, okay, one is working good for me, then fine, go ahead with that. But on the basis of idea, there is a consumer who is going to tell you a lot of things, right? So that's it, guys. I think I would like to show you the presentation deck till this point only, because I wanted to show you how that idea validation around this particular problem statement will be formulated, so that you have an idea of which industry we should communicate to and what kind of questionnaire we should prepare, right? So I hope with this you have got good glimpses about idea validation phase. And now it's time for Q&A, where we interact again with each other and try to take the discussion further on the basis of your viewpoint and your suggestion. And I will be more than happy to take your questions, whatever they are. So now I will stop my screen sharing and we can have one-on-one discussion. Yeah, so I'm back. So now we can have one-on-one discussion on the idea validation phase. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy.
Students may ask questions, please, if anybody has to.
Good afternoon, sir.
Very good afternoon to you.
Sir, I want to know about this product. Sir, how will your new product fit into your product portfolio plan?
Yeah. So again, these are the projects of the students which I have showcased you in the morning and again in the noon also, right? So as a part of the team, you get a chance to mentor them. That's one thing which is there. So yes, we feel that okay, each and every team who is working with us should convert their ideas into reality, take it to the startup phase, and then from there build their own portfolio, right? So Mask is something which was different. And this one is again a completely different category. This got awarded an Intel Higher Education Challenge in 2017-18, somewhere around that time frame. It got awarded over there. It is an award-winning project in Intel Higher Education Challenge. And the one which I showed you earlier was I think live example. It was second ranked in the world in Microsoft Imagine Cup in 2019. So kids got a chance to be there with the Microsoft team in Seattle in USA to ideate and be there in the finale. So every team, every student is going to get a chance to work on the project and to try and take it to the startup phase, where these ideas from the lab can be taken to the company stage, startup stage, and from there they can build on their portfolio according to the project. So Mask has its own range. This product again has its own customers and range, right? So the earlier one is already incubated now. It is already a startup, and the website is kaeli.in, caeli.in. So you can go and see their product portfolio. They are now open to pre-orders also for the Mask. And for this one, again, the audience are different and students are still working on the finalization stage. I would say now the decision whether they want to take it forward or not from here is their own, right? Because they have to be the owner of the product, right? What we feel is like a student, if they own their project, they feel that, okay, we want to take it forward, chances are more, right? That it will create a good success story. And this is what we want. We want it to be more student driven rather than instructed by me or any one of my teammates. Yes, we do have a role to play during the ideation, during the technology part. But once it is done and taken to one stage, I think the next responsibility lies with the student teams, and they have to take it to the next level and next orbit altogether, right? So yes, the portfolio, if you ask me on our portfolio, every project is important, but yes, every project in itself leads to a different startup, right? So different teams are involved in different projects. So ultimately what happens, they will walk out of the campus and start a company. It happened with Kylie. They have started off with their company, but with this one, I think it is still in the pipeline. The Lotto, we got a good idea and good mentor from the industry, from JCB, who pitched in this idea to us and motivated us to take it further, right? So it was a brainchild of one of the industry guys who was working with us. And I'm really grateful and thankful to him for coming up with such a wonderful idea and suggestion. And we incorporated his suggestion and his viewpoint. And for us, he was a customer because ultimately the requirements came from him. And we as a designer worked on that, right? So no credit away from anybody. It was from one of our industry person who was closely associated with us at that time. So yes, it happens like that, where you get right ideas from the industry guys, where they say that, okay, this is a requirement and this is where you chip in and do the job. And that's why it is quite important for the students and professors also to stay in touch with the industry people, because they are the ones who are going to be the ultimate consumer of a lot of technology that you produce in the lab. So if you can have a good sense of understanding that, okay, we want to do a work, but we want to do something which can be ultimately consumed by somebody, then it becomes a quite important playground where you take your customer from the industry Ask them, what do you want? And as a student, take it as a challenge, because you're learning a lot of technology. Industry guys will not be learning every technology every day, but you are doing 6 subjects at a time in one semester, switching it again, switching it again, switching it again. So I think the kind of things you are trying in academia is like something which is quite different, right? And as an industry, I think it is important that they give you the challenge, they give you the problems, and you as engineer take it as a challenge and thrive upon it, right? So that's the most important thing, and that is what we believe, right? And this is what we try over here in the campus, right? So in our portfolio, everything fits in, but yes, every student has their own roadmap that they have planned, and we strongly feel that we give full confidence to them to take their own roadmap, whatever they want. Over to you, sir.
Yes. Anybody else who would like to ask any question from Dr. Datta?
Yes, sir.
Ashutosh. Okay.
Hi, Ashutosh.
Yes, sir, Ashutosh.
Hi.
Sir. Sir, what are the procedures we may follow to implement our innovation in market properly?
Yeah. So if you want to take your innovation to the market, what kind of procedure you have to follow? If this is question, I hope I have got it right.
Yes, sir.
Gopal, is it this
Yes,
one?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. This one. So, sir, should we promote our product by thinking about some other products which is similar to our?
Great question, Ashutosh. I think you have touched the right point. I think Ashutosh has really touched the great area. Is your product something which is really out of the box? Or is it something which is inspired by some other product which is existing and you are trying to incorporate on the features? If this is the question, Ashutosh, I think, hang on, you really hit the right point. So
Yes, sir.
In the market, yes, if you see, most of the things are like disruptions. Those which are going to make it very big, they're the disruptions. You might not have heard about them earlier, and suddenly they come and you say, oh, we used to do this thing, but we used to do it in a different way. Now they have come, they have automated or done something. Now they are running a business out of that. Ashutosh, get my point on this. Just take one simple example, Zomato. What they are doing?
Yes, sir.
They are giving you food at home. You are paying
Yes,
through
sir.
your wallet, your mobile phone application. That's it. It doesn't mean that you were not ordering the food from hotel earlier. You used to do that. Maybe you have to go there and you have to take it. There was no home delivery. And yes, after some time, home delivery was also there. You used to get food from those places and you get it at your doorstep. But Zomato gave you more options. You can pick, choose, rating, do whatever you want to do, order whatever you want to do, schemes, coupons, everything. And suddenly, as a kid, you want to try easy use and something which gives you power. And if I want to have food at 3 a.m. in the morning, 4 a.m. in the morning, they're going to supply me in 30 minutes, guaranteed. So they're giving you a service, a new model, new strategy, properly implemented. It became a success. After Zomato became a success, other players come in. Now people are coming up with their own applications, right? Big Basket, again, was another innovation and the consumer market space where you are ordering the products from them, right? Amazon came up with a similar idea that, okay, now we will be serving you the groceries at your doorsteps. So things are changing. At times, they are inspired decisions. At times, companies, they take inspiration from each other and they come up with their own service models, right? And maybe at times you come up with a new product straight away, which is not heard of, right? So both the ways it is possible, right? So there is no standard rule that, okay, one will work, but both approaches will work in the society, in the market. Most of the times you find it like inspiration based, where one company comes and then there is a line of 55 companies coming up with a similar product. And yes, there will be a front runner in the race. So milk, if you talk about Amul Mother Dairy, you used to hear two kind of milks. And now it is like in that segment, there are a lot of milk providers, right? All of them are having good quality, right? So you have more choices now. So when you talk about taking your idea or your product to the market, at times it will be inspired decision. At times it will be something which will be completely unique. So success chances are there in both the models, and it all depends on what your product is. If your product is good, your marketing strategy is good, you will earn your business, and slowly you will scale up. That's the whole sole idea. I hope it answers your question, Asutosh.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
sir. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
yes, sir. Yes.
Sir, that was really a nice session, sir. And hello, sir. Datta, sir, you are not audible, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's audible.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful session today, for the 2 sessions, morning and evening. And sir, probably one thing is very sure. I mean, to be rich in idea, one needs not to be rich as per the pocket. So I hope the students got the message very clear that they should keep their idea in their mind and try to have it realized someday. And they should, try to become some kind of entrepreneur and try to, job giver side. They should be into it, and that is the fundamental mantra of the successor. Sir, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for the day. Thank you very much for the thank you very much, audience. Thank you all. Let us meet tomorrow at the morning 10:30, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you all.
Nice day. Stay safe. Bye bye. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.